My daughter vanished without a trace 4 years ago. Then I saw a woman who looked just like her stacking apples at the grocery store. I whispered her name before I realized I was screaming. She turned around slowly, and what I saw in her eyes shattered me. Hey, Reddit. It's hard to explain what it feels like to lose someone who's still technically alive. There's no funeral, no gravestone, just silence that grows louder every day. My daughter, Rachel, disappeared from my life in the quietest way imaginable. No big fight, no final goodbye, just gone. 4 years ago, she stopped calling. At first, I thought maybe she needed space. We'd grown distant over the years. Awkward phone calls on birthdays, short visits during the holidays, polite hugs that felt more like obligations. Still, I held on to the belief that time would mend us. That whatever resentment or pain had built between us would one day dissolve over coffee or a late-night phone call. But that call never came. The silence stretched into weeks. Weeks became months. I reached out, gently at first, texts, voicemails, and email. Then more urgently, I contacted friends, her job, even her old roommate. No one knew anything. Her landlord said she'd moved out with barely a word. Her number was disconnected. Her social media accounts vanished. Eventually, I filed a missing persons report. The officer was kind but honest. She's an adult. If she doesn't want to be found, there's not much we can do. Still, I searched. I walked neighborhoods near her old place, asking strangers if they'd seen her. I put up flyers that tore in the wind and rain. I clung to hope like it was oxygen. But hope is a tricky thing. It doesn't die all at once. It fades, piece by piece, until you wake up one day and realize the only thing keeping it alive is your refusal to let go. The world moved on, but I didn't. Then last Thursday happened. I was doing something mindless, grocery shopping. It's funny how grief becomes part of your routine. I wandered down the same aisles I always did, more out of habit than necessity. I wasn't really looking at the apples. I was thinking about how quiet my house had become, how I still check my phone every night just in case her name appeared. And then I saw her. She was at the far end of the produce section, stacking apples into a display. Her back was to me. Her long dark hair pulled into a braid. Rachel's braid. The tilt of her head. The curve of her shoulders. Even the way she moved. Something in my bones knew. My heart left before my mind could process. I whispered her name first as if afraid the moment would break. But the whisper turned into a shout before I could stop it. Rachel. People turned. She froze. Slowly, she turned around. And I swear the entire world went silent. It was her. Older, thinner maybe, with different clothes and a wary look in her eyes. But it was her. For a second, our eyes met. I expected relief, joy, even surprise. But what I saw instead was fear. Cold, raw fear. Her eyes widened, and she took a step back. My heart shattered in that instant. I started walking toward her, hands raised like I was approaching a frightened animal. I said her name again, softer this time. Rachel, it's me. It's Mom. She shook her head, once hard, and turned away. She darted behind the display and disappeared into a staff-only door. I tried to follow, but an employee stepped in front of me. I must have looked unhinged, babbling about my daughter, trying to push past him. "Ma'am, you need to calm down," he said firmly. "Employees only. I just need to talk to her." I begged, "That girl, Rachel, she's my daughter. She's been missing for 4 years." His expression didn't change. "I'm sorry. There's no one by that name working here." I left the store in tears. I sat in my car for what felt like hours, shaking, replaying her face in my mind over and over. Was it really her? Had grief tricked me? But no, it was her. I know my child. The next day, I went back. She wasn't there. I've been back 3 more times since. No sign of her. No one seems to know who I'm talking about. The manager told me there's been no new hires fitting that description. But I know what I saw. That wasn't some lookalike. That was my Rachel. And she looked terrified to see me. Why? What could have happened in those missing years to make her run from her own mother? I'm not giving up. Not again. This time I saw her. She's alive. Somewhere out there. And I will find her. I couldn't sleep the night after I saw her. I kept hearing the echo of her name as it came out of my own mouth. Half scream. Half prayer. The look in her eyes when she turned around, it haunted me. My brain wanted to question everything. To look for a logical explanation. Maybe it wasn't Rachel. Maybe it was someone who just looked like her. Maybe grief and desperation had twisted my perception. But my heart, my gut, my mother's instinct, it screamed louder than logic. It was her. The next morning, I returned to the store before it even opened. I sat in my car, watching. Staff filtered in slowly, some chatting with coffee cups in hand. But none of them were her. No dark braid. No cautious glance toward the parking lot. I waited for hours. Still nothing. I went in and bought a single apple, just to look around. A different girl was at the produce section, blonde, cheerful, with earbuds in. I asked the cashier casually, "Hey, there was a girl here yesterday with dark hair. Stacking apples. Kind of tall." He gave me a shrug. "Doesn't ring a bell." "Maybe you mean Sarah. She was here Monday, but she's out of town." I wanted to scream. It wasn't Sarah. It was Rachel. Why was everyone pretending like she didn't exist? I left my number with the manager, told him if anyone fitting that description came back, to please call me. He nodded like he was just trying to get me out of the store. That night, I dug through Rachel's old things again. A box I hadn't touched in years. Old yearbooks, birthday cards, drawings from when she was 5. Buried at the bottom was a journal, one I'd never seen before. The cover was faded and some pages had been ripped out, but one entry stopped me cold. He watches me now. Even at work, I thought moving would help, but he always finds me. I want to disappear. I have to. The handwriting was hers. A few entries later, it got more frantic, more paranoid. He says if I tell anyone, he'll hurt Mom. He knows where she lives. I can't let her get hurt because of me. My blood ran cold. My hands shook. Who was she talking about? A boyfriend. A stalker. Someone I never knew existed. I called the police. I gave them the journal, told them everything. The disappearance, the sighting, the way she ran. But the officer barely glanced at the entries before giving me that same patronizing look I'd come to know too well. She's an adult. There's nothing in here that proves she was under threat. It's vague. Without a name or a report at the time, we don't have much to go on. I wanted to scream. Again. So I started digging on my own. I called her old college roommate, Jenna, who I hadn't spoken to in years. At first, she was surprised to hear from me. Then quiet when I asked about Rachel. After a long pause, she said something that chilled me. There was a guy. Older. Creepy. She never said his name, just called him the Watcher. Said he'd show up near campus, at work, even once outside her window. I told her to call the police, but she said he wanted her to do that. Why? Because then he'd know she was scared. She was convinced he'd hurt someone she loved if she talked. Then one day she just goes to me too. Never even picked up the stuff she left behind. I asked if she could send me anything. Old photos, messages. She did. Most of it was innocent enough, but one message from Rachel stood out. If I ever vanish, don't look for me. It's safer that way. I cried myself to sleep that night, hugging the phone like it was the last piece of my daughter I had left. But the next morning, I got a call from a blocked number. A male voice. Come. Cold. Stop looking. You already lost her once. You won't get another chance. He hung up before I could say a word. My heart nearly stopped. My breath caught in my throat. I called the number back, no response. I reported it to the police. They said without a traceable number, there wasn't much they could do. Again. But now I know. I know Rachel didn't disappear because of me. She didn't run away from her life. She was hiding. From him. From whoever that man was. And I just blew her cover. That's why she looked so afraid. That's why she ran. And that's why, if I don't do something now, I might lose her for real. I'm going back to that store tomorrow. But not just to wait. I've found a private investigator. I've found someone who actually listens. We're going to trace that call, follow every lead, dig through every old connection until we find him and her. Because I will not stop again. Not now. Not until I know my daughter is safe. I went back to the grocery store the next morning. Not alone this time. The private investigator I'd hired, his name was Mark, sat in a nondescript sedan across the parking lot. He looked like the kind of man who'd seen enough lies to recognize truth by instinct. I handed him a photo of Rachel, a recent one from college, and the journal page she wrote about the watcher. He said he believed me before I even finished explaining. For the first hour, I sat in my car again, scanning every employee who entered. Mark kept his distance, watching from another angle. Just when I began to lose hope, I saw her. Rachel. She was in different clothes this time, baggy hoodie, cap pulled low, but I knew it was her. You don't unlearn the face of your own child. I opened my door but stopped myself from calling out. Instead, I watched. She walked like someone trying not to be noticed. Head down, shoulders hunched. She slipped inside through the employee entrance. I could barely breathe. Mark tailed her subtly, circling the side of the building, using reflections in windows to keep an eye on her movements. Then he vanished behind the store. I waited. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. Then my phone rang. I followed her to the break room. She went through another exit in the back. Not a public one. She's not just working here. She's living here. My heart dropped. What? That's impossible. Not entirely. Some of these stores have storage rooms nobody checks. Old back offices. She's hiding in one of them. And she's not alone. There was silence on the line for a moment. There's a man in there with her. I froze. Mark's voice was steady. I got a photo. Sending it to you now. I opened the image as it arrived. It was blurry, taken through a cracked door, but unmistakable. Rachel sat on a mattress on the floor, hands folded in her lap, eyes hollow. Next to her was a man, mid-40s, sharp jaw, balding, wearing all black. He stood over her like a shadow, like a warden. I gasped. That's him. It had to be. I told Mark I was going in. He told me to wait, that he had a plan. That afternoon, Mark sent the photo and the journal to someone he trusted inside the local PD, someone who didn't give the usual dismissive answers, someone who acted. An officer met us in the parking lot 3 hours later. By then, Rachel and the men had left through the rear exit, slipping into a beat-up van. But Mark followed them from a distance. GPS pinned them to a rundown house 20 minutes away. That's where it happened. The raid. 6 officers. Quiet. Fast. Efficient. They moved like they'd done this before, and they had. It turns out, the man wasn't just a stalker. His name was Gregory Shaw. He'd been investigated years ago for coercion, manipulation, even suspected trafficking, but nothing ever stuck. Until now, they found Rachel inside, along with 2 other girls. When they carried her out, blinking in the sunlight, she looked more ghost than girl. I wanted to run to her, but I was frozen, petrified that the moment wasn't real, that she might vanish again. But then she saw me. She hesitated, then ran straight into my arms. I cried so hard I couldn't see. She didn't say anything at first, just held me like she never wanted to let go again. Later, at the hospital, she told me everything. Gregory had first approached her when she was in college, acting like a friend, a mentor. He offered help when she felt lost, overwhelmed. Then he began isolating her, telling her who to trust, convincing her I was part of some plot to control her life. When she tried to pull away, he threatened me. He showed her photos of my house, my routine, my workplace. If you ever talk to her again, he told her, she dies. So Rachel ran, changed her name, cut ties with everyone. But Gregory found her again. He always found her. He said disappearing was the only way to protect you, she whispered, eyes glassy. I believed him. I hugged her tighter. You don't have to protect me anymore, I said. I've got you now. Gregory Shaw is in custody. This time, the evidence is solid. Rachel is safe. The other girls are safe. And me? I'm healing. Slowly. We've got a long road ahead. Therapy, rebuilding trust, relearning how to be in each other's lives. But she's home. After 4 years of silence, she finally picked up the phone. She finally came back. And now, every time I hear her voice, every time she says good morning, Mom, I remember the sound of her name echoing in that grocery store and how I screamed it not in fear, but in hope. Hope that became real.